talk about Brandon Aiyuk's future with the 49ers. No one's talking about Brandon. Everyone's focused on Debo.
Yeah.
But to me, Debo's going to be here. Debo played so well last year, and they can't get rid of him. And they've made that clear. Doesn't matter if you're upset, you want to go. We need you. You're the team. And I think they'll probably work it out. That brings me to Brandon Aiyuk. Debo Samuel's going to be getting quarterback money. Are the Niners prepared to give 2 wide receivers that if Brandon Aiyuk has a big season, or are they maybe prepared to let him leave in free agency, get one of those comp picks, and maybe throw Danny Gray in the starting lineup in a year? What do you think? What's his stake for Brandon Aiyuk the next?
Admittedly, Grant, I had not considered this, and I think it's a really, really valid point. I had only thought of Brandon Aiyuk practicing with Trey Lance as a net positive, which it still is. You want a good season, even if that good season means that you can no longer keep that player. That's the net result of the NFL and the salary cap. But there is that other side to this equation. Will this expected breakout season for Brandon Aiyuk make him near impossible to re-sign? And I think the answer there has to be yes. If Brandon does as well this season as I personally predict that he will, I believe he will be a 1,000-yard receiver and will push Debo to look like the most valuable receiver on this team potentially. Mm-hmm. I realize he doesn't do the same things as Debo Samuel. I realize he doesn't have the physicality of Debo, but he is different and better in some ways that Debo is not. We may get to see that this season. And I do think the end result is he may price himself out of being a 49er.
Also, I think when they drafted Brandon Aiyuk, they did it with Jimmy Garoppolo in mind, even though those two never really developed a rapport.
Interesting.
He was a Yak guy. He's part of the Yak Bros.
Right.
He's an excellent player, but he's not a 4-3 guy. He's not a straight up vertical threat. Now he's a complete receiver. He's excellent. But I do think he was drafted with Jimmy in mind. Trey wasn't on the team when they drafted Brandon Aiyuk. And last year, Aiyuk was in the doghouse for whatever reason. And that wasn't that long ago. It does seem like it had something to do with him being used as running a lot of clear out routes, probably knowing he was never going to get the ball because Jimmy doesn't even look down the field. All right, well, that's a big part of the offense. And Danny Gray runs those clear out routes faster. And all I know is that when they drafted Gray, everyone's thinking, well, this is insurance if Debo doesn't work. Debo's coming back. And talking to Gray, he plays Aiyuk's position. He's not a flanker. A flanker is a guy who goes over the middle frequently and takes those hits in stride and is built like Debo. No, he's a split end, outside the numbers, do your work, near the sideline and down the field. That's Danny Gray. So it seems almost like they drafted a receiver this year just in case Aiyuk prices himself out. Now, if Aiyuk has a mediocre year, they could probably keep him. But he's not a mediocre player. He's a very good player. And he's gonna have a quarterback who actually throws him the ball now. So yeah, Aiyuk might be auditioning for another team this year.
It's fascinating because it matches up with
his 5th-year option. I'm sorry. They could pick up his 5th-year option.
Right. They could indeed. He was a first-round pick.
Yes.
It does follow the 49ers' previous path towards replacing players, that they tend to jump on a year early, right, and bring in someone that could then fill that void. Oftentimes, as we saw with Aaron Banks or Trey Sermon, like actually not needing that player in the year in which they were drafted so much as they will that following year. So with the expectation that Brandon Aiyuk may not be affordable if they didn't intend to pick up that 5th-year option, the timing of the Danny Gray draft pick does match up with that. Bold prediction early, way too early, acknowledging that Debo most likely has the more important role within the team, but that doesn't necessarily mean he has the greater statistical season. If you had to pick right now, based on far too little information, which we won't hold you to, but somebody will on Twitter, who do you think has the better statistical season, Debo Samuel or Brandon Aiyuk?
Debo. Nothing against Aiyuk. I think Debo's the best player in the league until something changes.
Right.
The Niners would be crazy to dial down his targets. They should go up.
Right.
He got like 20% of the targets last year. He should get 25. Whatever Cooper Kupp gets, Debo deserves because Debo's just as good. And nothing against Brandon Aiyuk. He's just not as good as Debo. And Debo's that good. He deserves that much. It's like Steph. Like Steph, take all the threes you want, man, and then we'll figure out the rest after that. He needs his shots. So yeah, Debo. And then to me, I think I would probably bank on Aiyuk having better numbers than Kittle. Not because I think he's necessarily better than Kittle, but I think he's getting better, and Kittle might be starting to hit the down slope.
The deep pass, whoever's catching more of those deep passes, it would seem like that would be the difference in the statistics there between Kittle and Aiyuk. And to your point, I mean, it will be interesting to watch Kittle with that downfield speed after a few lower body injuries. If there's a world in which Brandon Aiyuk is the true star of this season, and you look at the fact that Deebo Samuel, his greatest statistical season was with Jimmy Garoppolo behind center, right? I mean, that is just what it is right now. It could very well carry forward with Trey Lance as the quarterback. Is there a scenario in your mind where the 49ers would consider attempting to move Deebo and his new big contract if they realize throughout this year that the chemistry actually exists between Brandon and Trey?
Very interesting. I mean, it's possible. Even though they love Deebo, they do have some questions about him. I think they do. And if those questions pop up again this year, they might look into something like that. But if Deebo can maintain the player he was last year, dude, he's going to be a Niner for life. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's not going anywhere. I'm not sure he can, though, right? That's the question with him. He's done it once. He almost did it his rookie year. He didn't get the same amount of usage. He wasn't as consistently great all year because he didn't get the ball as much. He was behind Dante Pettis and stuff.
Right.
But if he could do it again, I mean, dude, he's playing like an all-time great Niner. At least he did it for 1 year.
Yes, it does tease the idea of being an all-time great. If he can sustain where he was last year, it seems like that's a likely outcome.